Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance and Katie are joining us. Ton of information. We got a big dump right before the beginning of the show, so we're scrambling. We're going to answer a lot of questions. Number one, Lance, you saw all of the notices. Does it help?
I think it helps a little bit, Bob, but it's still, we were talking about this before the show started, in an attempt to eliminate fraud, we've made it difficult for legitimate, needful small businesses to get their money in a timely way. I think the new IFR that was released that provides it's kind of like a delegated authority to clear some of the hold codes. It still doesn't take away, Bob, the requirement to collect some information and have it in your file. It will help, but it's not the solution that I was hoping for.
We've attached those in your handouts in the dashboard so you can download those. And Lance, turn your phone off. Number one. Well, let's say you run out of PPP funds.
Yeah, everybody on this call will understand, Bob. That was a PPP borrower.
Okay, very good. As long as it's not your mom anymore. We don't want any more phone calls from mom. At least. What do you think, Katie? Is that consistent with your understanding what's happening in the marketplace?
Yeah, so we were kind of discussing this yesterday, how there are a lot of loans being held up in the hold codes. But even so, based on the SBA's most recent data, it really doesn't look like we're going to run out, even if there are well over that 20% that we expect are held up right now. So it probably won't run out.
Bob, one of the things that I think really catches my eye, the other day, Katie presented a statistic of the number of small businesses who had realized a 25% or more decline in revenue. And that tells a very telling story. I think it was at like 50%.
Yeah, I think it's about 52%.
But it would tell you that, 50% of the first round PPP borrowers may not have that 25% reduction needed to get the second draw loan.
Right. Number two, does the new IFR, which says loans to executive officers, bank directors, principal shareholders, we're allowing those loans now, does that affect you?
I have not seen that IFR, Bob. Does that mean I can get an SBA loan now?
Well, I'm surprised. 14% say yes. I thought it'd be a lot less than that. I thought it was a one-off. But I have no issue with the director as long as it's disclosed to directors or outside directors. They run businesses. They run small businesses. They certainly should be eligible, Lance. Do you have any issues with that?
I don't have issues, and quite honestly, I don't know that many directors will be using the SBA program, Bob, and many of them will have difficulty meeting the credit elsewhere standards because usually by the time you become a board member at a bank, you've developed a pretty significant balance sheet in most cases.
As long as the bank is doing well, yes. But again, as an aside, we are no bank closings yet in 2021, so that's still positive.
Oh, that's true.
What percentage of your PPP loans are being held because of, quote, hold codes, end quote? Lance, I'll let you take a guess.
I really look forward, Bob. I'm going to guess 50%. No, I'm way off.
I would have guessed in that 20 to 40% range, which is where we had it before. So that means, well, we still have 83%. Excuse me. We still have, 43% less than 20. We still have quite a few in being held. We seem to be consistent in that 15, 20% range.
Hey, Bob, another question, and I know we've probably asked this before, but maybe for tomorrow's show on the forgiveness side, how many people have gotten forgiveness on loans over $2 million?
It's a great question. I know we've had some. I'd sort of like to know how many of those over 5 million also. Joseph, you want to make notes of those for tomorrow? All right. What hit this morning, Katie?
Yeah, so this is the Paycheck Protection Program hold code first draw compliance check. It basically allows you as a lender to clear some hold codes using a compliance check and certification. That's going to apply to several types of loans, and I know Lance has gone through this a little bit more, so he might be able to give us a better idea of which loans. But obviously there are still some loans that the SBA really still needs to review, so that's an option as well. They also notified you that duplicate loans and multiple loan issues and other hold codes not covered within that initial certification version should be emailed to the SBA, and they'll let you know how to handle those.
I always love SBA throws in other in almost everything. It's like credit elsewhere can be proven this way, and any other
Prudent way.
Well, I think what they did is the simple hold codes that really shouldn't be holding loans up. They've given lenders the opportunity to process those with a certification. Now, guys, it doesn't mean that you don't have to collect the information. We'll be covering that tomorrow in the webinar. You still have to collect the information, but it's kind of like a delegated servicing action. You collect the information, put it in file, and you can go ahead and move it through SBA. SBA is still going to review the eligibility related issues, the criminal activity related issues. The more serious hold codes will still require SBA's review. And of course, there's some hold codes that we don't even know about that SBA's brought up to discuss. So, but I mean, the good news, Adam, is the simple hold codes that probably shouldn't have held up the PPP loan to begin with, Bob and Katie, they're going to give us the ability to collect that information, provide a certification, and the loan will go ahead and move through it.
Let's go through real quick the stats. We blew through we didn't blow through. We hit the $100 billion mark. And tell us, give us a recap of all these stats, Katie.
Yeah, so that's combining both first and second draw. So we really, it's still a significant amount of money that's left. What's nice to know is it is reaching some of the smallest businesses. We're still seeing most of those loans under $100,000. That's about 82% of them are under $100,000. So that's a good sign really for the future. We're also seeing rural communities are receiving the funding a little bit better now, but that is still only at 28%. So that the SBA is addressing these issues with the numbers, but their most recent data, I'm not sure why we're not going to that screen.
Yeah, Joseph, can you advance the slides, please?
Yeah, so on the 7th, they released the approvals up to the 7th. There we go. Yeah. So we are seeing there, they've split it up between first and second draw. You are seeing a lot of those smaller lenders still doing a lot of these loans, which is a great sign. Especially those lenders that are under $10 billion in assets are still a huge portion of this second round, which is great to see. Other than that, I don't know if there's anything else that stands out to you. I can talk about it if you point it out, but yeah.
The smaller banks are doing very well for their customers, Lance.
They absolutely are, Bob. And I think part of the process, a lot of larger banks are using portals. The smaller banks have a human being touching it, or I'm sorry, there's a human being touching it with a portal. But I think the smaller banks are better suited in a lot of cases to deal with the second draw PPP loans.
I'm sorry, I have to focus on this. What is a to be confirmed lender?
I'm sorry.
At
Yeah, I
the
saw
bottom of
that
the
too.
table, to be confirmed. All right,
Well, maybe they've got a
that's
PPP
the
loan
other.
they're not sure about.
That's the others. Okay. Hey, let's go to questions. We got a ton of questions. Let's put Lance on the hot seat. Yeah, we talked about that. Here we go, Lance. Can a borrower use alternative size standards to qualify for a second draw loan if they have over 300 employees?
The answer is no.
Have you heard? Go ahead,
PPP is employee specific. Alternative size standards certainly come into play in regular SBA lending, but not PPP. If they can't meet the 300 employees, they cannot use the alternative size standards.
Joseph, skip number 2, go directly to number 3, the same question. And it says, borrower appears to be engaged in lending, potential eligibility issue. I know credit repair is ineligible. I assume this covers payday lenders, Lance.
It's picking up on that because of the NAICS code. So the question is, do they have the correct NAICS code? And I know a lot of people, when they prepare their tax return, may not pay attention necessarily. I got to tell you the funny thing, Bob and Katie, the 1112 payment information, I have had more borrowers figure out what a NAICS code is with that 1112 payments, trying to figure out if they're in the category that's going to get extra payments. I have borrowers calling up and saying, yeah, I never knew what NAICS code meant until this came out. Now I'm looking. But on this one, apparently the NAICS code of the applicant came up under potentially being a lender. What you're going to have to do is provide information, things like business license, which should indicate the type of business they are. Even marketing materials can help here just to prove that they are not a lender.
Comment, we had a bunch of declined loans that were moved into approval without us doing a thing. Most of the reasons for decline were EIN discrepancies. Well, that's good news.
Wow.
Yeah, we did hear earlier on in the process that there was some places that accidentally reused EINs, and someone's EIN even got reused multiple times. So it seems like maybe another lending institution was able to fix that. Maybe they had reused it multiple times, or maybe even someone in your institution fixed it, in which case it would fix all of yours as well.
Good. I don't see a hyperlink that will allow me to get our not approved at SBA message loans into the proactive loan review. Lance, do you know the portal that well?
I do not know well enough to advise on that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh,
Lance.
sorry.
Go ahead. No,
Just
you're
a
fine.
little comment. I did talk to the person who submitted this question, and it sounds like, to me, what happened is they're actually getting a not approved, and it's not going to be under the same category as a hold code. And they have reached out to the SBA through the portal. I think that's probably the best way to do it. I don't know any other way of really getting that fixed.
By the way, in the notice, there are about 5 or 6 emails on where to follow up with questions, just FYI. SBA's determined that SBA loans that were approved between March 27th last year and September 27th are not eligible for a second round of debt relief. Is that...
We talked about this one yesterday, Bob. It's kind of a...
if funds are available situation, is that it?
I've had some people call it a donut, but it's unfortunate that it's this way. Now, all these borrowers got 6 CARES Act payments when their loan fully funded, but for some reason, the 1112 payments in the legislation, those loans done between March 27th and September 27th are not eligible unless adequate funds are available.
Which we don't know what that means yet. Yeah.
Hey, and I'm not sure that SBA's made a final determination on whether funds are available, but I'm sure they're hesitant to release and do that until they're sure of it. But
Christian
right now, Bob, those borrowers will not get 1112 payments.
Christian wants to know, can a lender increase or decrease first and second draw loan amounts?
I think you can in ETRAM.
Craig says, will SBA modify the forgiveness portal to match the $150,000 and below application? I love this. We tried to message the portal, but got a weird response.
Well, Craig, you have a great question. Not only does SBA have to modify their portal, but there's lenders all over the country who are trying to modify their portals to accept the 3508S, the new form. I had not one of my customers, but a family member that was working on preparing their forgiveness application, and I reached out to the bank head of SBA and talked to him. They said, well, it should be available in the next few days. And that's true with most institutions. They're incorporating that form into their forgiveness portal, and SBA is trying to do the same thing.
Brian makes a comment which says you had a stat on yesterday's program regarding percentage of businesses that experienced declining revenues, but he has several applicants that have only experienced a quarterly drop, but overall sales were even up in the year.
Now that situation, they would be eligible for a second draw PPP loan if they had a quarter.
Yeah. Any special documentation that you would do being a good SBA citizen, Lance?
Well, in that case, you're just going to have the financial information from that particular quarter in 19 and 20 to support that application.
Jared says we have a company that was formed in January 2020 that they're eligible for second round because they, by comparing first quarter 2020 to second or third quarter, is that correct? No, you have to do it year to year, correct?
They started in January 2020.
Yeah, go ahead, Joseph. Advance one slide, please. There. No, got Jared. Do you have Jared's? Okay, here's.
Sorry, I don't have Jared's question. Sorry.
Okay, that just came in. Okay, here's the deal. Formed January 2020, so it's before our February date. But he was told, I don't know by who, that is eligible for second round PPP money by comparing that first quarter to the second, third, or fourth quarter of 2020. The answer on that is no, correct, Lance? You need to compare it.
You should be comparing 2020 to 2019.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Any other questions, Joseph?
Last question from Jody.
We have received a hold code of 17 for a few of our loans, but we don't know what it is.
Jody, look in the IFR that's attached to this presentation. That's probably a hold code in that other group that Katie was referring to. So look in that IFR. It should help you with that.
Yeah, I think they have been reaching out to the SBA through the portal for those that are listed as not public.
And they give you an email address you can contact someone, Katie?
Yeah, they recommend doing it through the portal email system, but I believe there's an email in there as well.
I'm just curious what a not public hold code is. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Lance, what are you talking about tomorrow on the webinar?
We're going to try to give guidance on how to deal with the hold codes. And one thing I want to really make clear is the new IFR gives us the opportunity to clear some of these ourselves, but it doesn't take away the requirement for you to have appropriate documentation in your file. And it's like any delegated action that SBA lets us do. You can do it under your authority, but you still have to collect the proper information. So we're going to go over the hold codes, what information you should collect to clear a hold code, and then we'll talk a little bit about the clearance process.
If anybody knows what that 17 is, shoot Katie or I an email. Hey, Lance, thank you very much. Good information. Katie, good job. And thank you all for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.